I'm here to talk about something I struggle with every day. It came to be a reality after I started advancing through grade levels. I started to notice several changes. Not being able to read at the same level as my peers, not being able to spell correctly, being afraid of humiliation if I mispronounce a word in front of my classmates. For instance, in my advanced English classes, whenever we were assigned reading, I had become so anxious trying to read the whole story in my head so I could be prepared to talk if I was to be called on. If I had read ahead and didn't know how to pronounce a word, I would hope and pray not to be called on. And if I was, embarrassment would consume me whenever a classmate would have to correct me on the specific word. Throughout elementary school, I was taken out of class every day to go do extra reading. And the way my classmates stared at me walking out of the classroom door, giving me the most degrading looks, it made me feel as though I'd never be as smart as them or good enough. I was told by my own teachers never to take an advanced academic course because I would never be able to handle a challenge and likely fail out with the learning disorder I have. I took what they said and made a challenge for myself to prove them wrong. It took a lot of hard work, dedication, as well as a lot of tutoring to get where I am today. My teachers and even I never thought in a million years I would be taking advanced academic courses, but it was through great practice and extra reading I was able to excel in them. My name is Ashlyn Lyon. I am a junior here at CLHS High School, and this is my story about how I struggle with dyslexia, and it's the same story faced by millions every day. Dyslexia is a learning disorder that involves difficulty reading due to problems identifying speech sounds and how they relate to letters and words. Dyslexia happens because of the way the brain processes information. In a non-dyslexic brain, the left hemisphere has three dominant areas that are usually activated for reading: the Broca's area, the occipital temporal area, and the parcipital temporal area. But in those with dyslexia, only the Broca's area is being stimulated. But most importantly, I'm here today to talk about how this has affected my life and how you can overcome something you struggle with every day. Let me give you a day-to-day example of what I go through. Instead of reading the sentence as, "the dog sat on the mat," I would read, "the god sat no the mat." Funny, right? Another example is, "it is easy to read this sentence." I would read, "if it is easy to read this sentence." Some of the most common letters dyslexic people mix up would have to be our P's and our D's and our F's and our T's, like I said in the previous example. This puts in perspective how difficult it is to deal with every day and what dyslexic people go through when trying to read any type of reading material. When I was younger, people used to tell me, "you're over-exaggerating, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're just dumb." It was that word that really hit hard. You could call me ugly, you could call me fat, but when someone labels me as stupid, that is a very different story. I especially remember being told by one of my previous school teachers that I would never be able to handle the workload or have the skills to be put in an advanced course. It was at that moment I lost all hope and labeled myself as dumb because it was my own teacher, who was supposed to have the most faith in me, didn't believe I could do it. Throughout grade school up until my 8th grade year, I had to go to a tutor every week. To be completely honest, it wasn't my favorite thing, having to do extra reading and homework on top of my schoolwork. Every time I would go, my tutor and I would read these short stories, and I'd become so frustrated when I wouldn't know how to pronounce a word, to the point where I started to cry and not want to do anything. I had much rather be hanging out with my friends because I believed the tutoring wasn't helping me improve whatsoever. It wasn't until a few years ago I noticed all this extra help was benefiting me for the long run. I noticed I was improving in my level of reading. I began to understand how to use my context clues to derive the meaning of sentences. And I learned to be less afraid to talk in front of my peers. I was able to overcome these obstacles in that way because of the years of tutoring I went through and all the hard work I put in each week. It is roughly estimated 20% of the population suffer from dyslexia. That's roughly 1 in every 5 people. Take, for example, a class of 30 students. 6 of them are dyslexic and may not even know it. There are over 40 million men, women, and children that suffer from dyslexia, and only about 2 million of them know it. There are children in our classrooms wondering why they can't spell or read, and they don't even know why. We make fun of them, calling them names like stupid and dumb, and then they start to believe it, like what I did, degrading my own self-worth because of what other people said. There are many different ways you can cope with dyslexia. 1, they need to learn to give themselves enough time to do assignments. Tasks that require reading and writing take longer for people with dyslexia. However much time other students take, dyslexic people should consider doubling the amount of time. They should consult with a professional who have the skills and training that deal with the effects of dyslexia. One of the best choices I made was getting a tutor who helped me for years to become a successful student. Lastly, just reading is one of the best ways to overcome dyslexia because people are exposed to so much new information that help them learn and grow as an individual. Dyslexia isn't something that just goes away on its own or something that can be outgrown, but people find different ways to work around it and still live completely normal lives. Earlier, I stated one of my biggest fears, which I now have been able to accomplish because I stand here today thinking it was impossible I would ever have the courage to talk in front of every single person in this room. But it was necessary for me to demonstrate to everyone that talking in front of y'all has been my biggest challenge yet. Yes, dyslexia is something I struggle with every day, but I not let that define who I am and who I want to be in the future. I hope others with a similar story